your right hand for up or for down.
Yeah.
Okay. So the most important thing that I always tell my clients, which is now obviously not applicable because we short the transformer, is that the lift has to stay on charge at all times without exception. If you plug it out and when you maybe rectify the plug so that it adapts to that plug, that's not a problem. If it's unplugged for about half an hour, that's not a problem. But anything longer than that, you start playing with the longevity of the batteries.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Because we get a lot of power cuts there, you know.
Yes, that's not a problem. If you do have power cuts, the chair has got a hibernation mode programmed into it, so it actually switches the batteries off by itself.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
And
So-
when the batteries are switched off, you can't use it.
No, you can use it, sir. You
Oh.
can use it. It runs off of batteries 100% of the time. The only difference that it makes to the chair when it is not charging or if the power has maybe gone out, the only difference it makes to the chair is that the chair is not charging. But functionally, it affects it absolutely in no way.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So rule number one, it has to stay on charge. Now, there are three ways that you can disable the chair from the charger. First of all, if you stop it short of the charge point, so typically if the transformer is now installed, coming all the way down, it won't beep, there won't be a sound. But let's say for instance you've jumped off too soon, it will beep like this to you, sir, along with the code A1. Now you don't have to memorize all of the codes now, it is in the book, so if you do wonder about that in the future, you can just refer to the book. But I'll just go through the basic codes with you now as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to press down and hold all the way down.
Yeah. When it gets to the bottom,
It automatically stops on the charge point. Now, should the transformer be installed, there will be no sound being made. The only thing, it will be silent, and the code on the display will be a C1 or a C4. Your C codes are telling you that it's busy charging.
yeah.
Okay. So typically, as I said, it would now be silent. The second way that it cannot be on charge is if you switch the black button off, as I have done now,
Why was it going beep beep?
because it's not getting a charge, sir. So the lift has been programmed, whenever the lift is not charging, just because it's that important to the chair, it has to be on charge all of the time. When it's
Yeah.
not on charge, if it stops short or somebody's plugged it out at the top, it will start beeping.
So that's
Yeah.
a warning, that's telling you something.
Correct.
So in this case, we're going to have to leave it beeping.
No, in this case, you're going to have to switch it off, because that beeping is still going to drain a little bit of the power, but by switching it off, you're isolating the batteries completely and you're not draining
So
them.
you're going to need that.
Correct. Correct.
And once you've isolated the batteries, of course,
Yes, sir.
you can't use it.
Then it won't work.
Yes.
So now, until we get you the transformer installed, sir, what I'm going to ask you to do is, and what you would never do in typical circumstances,
Yeah.
what you are now going to do without the transformer is if you travel down, you're going to stop and you're going to switch it off,
Ah.
just to preserve the
Just to
battery.
There's a
preserve the
key
battery.
there.
There is a key there, but the key doesn't isolate the batteries. The keys just isolate the
What does he
controls.
push on the button, is it?
Yes, so there's a black switch over here. I don't know if you can see that over there, sir. So if I switch it in that position, it will start
Okay,
beeping now,
just
and the light
stop.
comes back.
So you switch it off when you're through, just to preserve the battery
Yeah.
Yes.
until we get the thing charging again.
But in typical circumstances, that switch is never touched.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because it has to charge, or if you isolate the batteries by switching that off, the batteries are not charging.
So the batteries will last a bit longer.
Now.
Yes.
But once the transformer is installed, that button is never touched.
Yeah.
Because once you switch that off and the transformer is installed, the batteries won't charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the three things with the charging. It has to stay on the charge point. It automatically docks on the charge point at the bottom, automatically docks at the charge point at the top.
Okay.
Second of all, that switch has to stay switched on, typically, not until the transformer is installed. And third most, it has to be plugged in and switched on at the plug at the top.
Yeah.
If all those three things are done correctly, you will never have a problem with this lift.
Yeah.
So in normal use, you leave that switch on because it's going to be feeding you information
It's going to be
and,
feeding you power.
and making a contact up there.
Correct.
So there's no reason to switch that off other than to preserve the battery in these circumstances.
In these circumstances, but once the transformer is installed, that button is never touched.
You just leave
Because
it
there's
on.
no need to preserve the batteries because it will always be charging.
You leave it
Yeah.
on.
You leave it on.
Yeah.
Okay. Then,
How long will the batteries last?
well now, sir,
average?
I checked, well on average, sir, if you have a full charge and the power goes off, you're looking at a rail length like this, you're looking at least about 10 trips up and 10 trips down.
Ah.
Yes, sir. Typically, should the power go off.
Hell, that's not much.
Well, if you look at it, sir, you have, if you're coming up and down once or twice a day, you'll maybe come up and down once or twice a day. So then you maybe have 3, 4, 5 days out of the full charge.
Oh, I see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But that's because you're saying the batteries are not being recharged. If they're being recharged, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Oh, but if that's when the power goes off. But when the batteries are being recharged,
Indefinite.
then it's indefinite.
Yeah.
Then it's indefinite. Yeah.
And these batteries, how often do you have to replace them?
Just to give you an idea, sir, we had a lady in Pretoria, and she had this lift installed. It was never serviced once, where we recommend it should be serviced once a year. She never had us out for one call out, one breakdown. She called us after 8 years, and the only thing that needed replacing was the batteries. So,
Yeah.
So that's quite reliable.
Yeah.
yes. So if you keep it on charge and the batteries are constantly charged, you're looking at about 8 years lifespan, more or less.
Yeah.
But
And will Colin come and service it once a year?
that you have to discuss with Colin, sir.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, us from South Africa, we're just doing installation for Colin, and then more than that, unfortunately, we're not involved.
Yeah.
What does the service entail? Is it a certain amount of greasing or?
Okay, so that brings me to my next point. The next most important point is the day-to-day maintenance on the rail. No grease, no oil,
Nothing.
no detergents. You're going to wipe down the rail, and the only place where you're going to wipe it down is on the rounded parts. Not touching the gears, not oiling the gears, not greasing the gears. And you wipe that down with a damp cloth, only water, about once or twice a week,
Just
depending on how much dust you have.
Dust, that's from dust, right?
Yes. But
Yeah.
coming back to the question about what the service entails, basically we go through all bearings, we clean the rollers, because that's actually what has contact with the rail, so that gets quite dirty, so it just leaves your rail dirty. Going through all of the torque settings, tightening everything up basically. That's basically what the service
So
is.
how often? Once?
We, as the manufacturer, we recommend once a year, sir.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. So this lady in Pretoria went 8 years without anybody touching.
Without a service, without a breakdown, untouched.
Not
by
to
the
be
manufacturer.
recommended,
Not recommended, but it just gives you an idea of how reliable this
Yeah,
chain is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is so little that can go wrong. So little does go wrong.
Yeah. Okay, what are those two pedals on the sides?
Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate it for you here at the bottom, sir, but I'm going to demonstrate it at the top as well, but it's just easier to demonstrate at the bottom.
Okay.
So as you also asked earlier, sir, so what we're going to do is, when we do get to the top, our foot is going to be level with the top riser. So then what we're going to do is we're going to press down either on this lever or on this one. It's interlinked, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to press down and we're going to walk ourselves out. So then we're going to be getting out looking in that direction instead of looking in that direction, which is a lot safer looking that way.
Yeah.
So that's not motorized. That movement is not motorized.
That's not motorized at
Okay.
all.
And all you're doing is unlocking it by doing that.
Correct. So if we want to, the chair can lock at 45 degrees and at 90 degrees. So if we want to lock at 45 degrees, whatever's most convenient to you, sir, we press down, we swing out, we let go of the pedal, and then we will listen for the click.
Stop at the first click. That's 45.
Yeah.
Now we know it's locked. If we want to go to 90, all we do is we press down on the lever, past 90 degrees, let go of the lever, and then once again we listen for the click.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to be okay with turning that with your feet like that?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Just please do keep in mind, sir, if you do use the swivel function, it's just very important that you make sure that you listen for that click
Yes.
and make sure that it's locked. Because the danger lies, let's say for instance it's locked at 90 and you're busy getting out or you're busy reversing into the chair and it's not locked properly and the chair swings out
Could fall out.
and you could start rolling down the stairs.
Yeah.
So just make sure that the chair is locked in the position and it is firmly locked. And the nice thing about this position is, firstly, it's locked mechanically, and then secondly, it's locked electronically. So let's say, for instance, you're busy reversing in, you have grandchildren, or somebody's busy playing with a remote at the bottom, the chair will not move.
Yeah.
Or if you bump the button by accident, whilst you're busy reversing or getting out, the chair will not move.
Yeah.
It has to be in the 0 degree position, if I can put it that way, before it will move.
It's got to be in the click.
It has to be clicked in, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then just to get back to the toggle, sir, so you can use either side for up or for down. Then just also keep in mind underneath the bottom side, we have a small micro switch over there.
What switch?
A micro switch, sir.
Okay.
Okay. You'll notice that there is not one on the top side, simply because With this arm up, the chair is completely disabled. So you can't roll upwards, but you can fall downwards. So with this arm up, it will still work, but with this arm up, it will not work.
So that's a micro switch. Yeah?
Correct, sir. So this arm has to be firmly down for the lift to work.
I see.
Okay. If
Yeah.
this arm is in the up position, the chair will not respond.
Is that because of the micro switch?
Correct, yes, sir. So that basically disables it on the toggle switches.
Yeah.
But now let's say, for instance, you and your wife are using the lift. You have travelled up and your wife is still stranded downstairs, and you folded everything up neatly so that other people can use the stairs.
Yeah.
So with the arms in the upright position, the chair will still respond on the remotes,
Oh, will it?
but they just won't respond on the toggle switches.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Where the remotes?
The remotes are over there, sir. I'll demonstrate that to you now. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I explained the on and off switch to you, sir. Then we have the on and off key. So it's basically an ignition key. So basically how it works is if I can rotate the key and remove it and walk away with the key, now I know that the lift is disabled. Once again, like an ignition key, if I can stick it in, turn it again, and not remove the key, now we know that the lift is in the on position.
Yeah.
Then the lift will work.
How many keys?
We supply you with 2 keys, sir.
Okay.
If the key is removed, you can remove the key as you please, but if the key is removed, the battery is still charged. So that doesn't affect the charging at all. It's just the
Okay.
on and off black button.
I see. Yeah.
But if you don't have grandchildren running around playing with the lift, then there's actually no need to remove the key. So
Yeah. Okay.
then just to give you a little bit of background on the safety of the chair and the safety features. So we have a safety edge on the top side, and we have a safety edge on the bottom side, over there. Now simply what that does is, I'll just demonstrate that to you quickly. So let's say for instance there's small fingers or there's a rag caught in the chair. So as soon as it runs into that obstruction, it stops immediately.
Oh, okay.
You won't be able to proceed in that direction, but you will be able to proceed in the opposite direction to back away from the obstruction, identify it and remove it.
Yeah.
So there's a micro switch in reverse there.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what it is.
Yes,
Still a
sir.
micro switch, yeah.
Then we also have a big one on the bottom, so that's also a safety edge. That one on the lower side and that one on the upper side.
So any obstruction on those things will switch it off.
Correct. It won't switch it off, but it will stop it
So
immediately.
as you can correct it.
Correct. So you can proceed in the opposite direction, but